What's up, YouTube? Jared Juggernaut 1 back from Nationals and here with an update video, and kind of wanted to talk about what happened. So basically, I did not. There were some parts of the event I missed, but I did want to talk about what happened up until I left, which was I left around Sunday at 1 p.m. Took a 4 o'clock flight. It's kind of complicated what happened, but like why, but I'll just leave it at that. Um, Essentially, I ended up traveling on Thursday afternoon with a bunch of friends. We stayed at the same hotel, but I chose to get my own room because I didn't really want to stay with all of them. Even though they got like their own room, it was still like I didn't like the idea of, you know, all seven of us in a room together. It was just, I was just, I felt more comfortable getting my own room, and it worked out. It was, it was a pretty fun experience though, regardless. So we got there, we just kind of hung out for Thursday, testing. Only three of us were particularly interested in testing: myself, my friend, who we call Glick, who, and my friend Mark, who I'll talk about more through the course of this video. The three of us were competing in LCQs. The rest of us all had their invites, so it's just fine. They just kind of did their own thing on Friday. Three of us left. We got breakfast. We headed out, and we just competed in LCQs. I mean, we were just kind of all hoping to be optimistic, even though Glick and I were like, "Oh, Mark's gonna get on his first try. We know it." No, because that's just how Mark rolls. He's just a very good player. He's better than both of us. We just knew that if anyone was going to get it on their first try, for sure, it was him. And also because of the fact he was running Psychic, so we were kind of like, yeah, they're not going to be prepared for his deck at all. Because he wasn't even running the OTK version. He was running more of a controlled version, so we were confident he would do well with it. That was just how it was. But it was like a crazy day. Thursday night, we went out for dinner at a bar, got some good food. We came back, and I was just panicking a little because at that point, I was like thinking to myself, what deck am I going to run? I was basically leaning away from Junk Doppel because my friend Jeremy had decided he wasn't going to run it anymore. And at that point, I was kind of like, maybe I should run something that's more consistent, that'll be better able to deal with the side deck and just the meta in general. So my friends convinced me to run Tengu Synchro because I knew I was going to run Junk Doppel or Tengu Synchro. They convinced me to run Tengu Synchro instead, which is what I ended up running. And it was an interesting build. My friend Jeremy ended up running a tour guide version. I decided to just run a different version. I don't know exactly what to call it besides just ordinary Tengu Synchro, but I didn't want to run the tour guides because the tour guides, trying to get them would have cost me a good $120 to $130, maybe a little more, and I just didn't feel like spending the money on them. To me, it made no sense. I just kept thinking, why wouldn't I be able to just make a good version that is less expensive in general? So I did. I go to LCQs. I wait online, but I totally made the stupid mistake of not writing out my deck list multiple times. I was really pissed off about this because it would have made things so much easier in general. Because all I would have had to do was just, because my friend Glick, he made copies of his. It just would have saved me so much trouble going back and forth. It was just such a pain. By the end of the day, I was so drained, partially because of how many times I had to write out my deck list. It was pretty stupid. So I get to the first one. My friend Glick and I, we ended up in the first LCQ I competed in. This was the only one we both ended up in together. The only flight. It was I think it was flight number 5. He ended up losing the second round. I ended up losing the first round against Karakuri Machina. Kid was nice. It was a good deck. We ended up joking around, talking about Jeff Jones, who was battling at the table right across from us. But I just felt like I should have won. Kind of got sacked, but that stuff happens. The second LCQ I competed in was Oh yeah, this was the funniest one of them all because I ended up facing three Tengu Synchro decks. I ended up facing one every round. I made it to the semifinals. My luck ran out in the third round. It was, oh, I really thought I was going to win in the third round. But to be fair, I probably would have lost a round after that because I would have had to face GB in the finals, and we all know what kind of matchup that would have been. Uh, it, I was still okay with it, though. I was optimistic. But the third LCQ ended up, was like, I knew it was going to be my last one due to time. They were just like about to stop the LCQs after that, and I was just like, whatever, this is it. And I ended up having to face Six Samurai. And the guy I faced, nice guy. I really, had nothing against him, but I was really pissed off by the fact that the reason he won was because he drew Royal Oppression, opening hand, both times. It was annoying because the fact was he drew both times, both games, one and three, I should say. I won game two because I drew the nuts and I went first. So, even though he was able to get out of the situation, but still, I won. But games one and three, he went first and he basically drew one or two monsters, and the rest were back row. And I just wasn't able to get around that because because both times the monster he drew was Kizan, and he would just go Kizan, step 4 back row. I didn't know what to do, quite frankly, because I couldn't get around his oppression. I drew none of my outs. It was just awful. Like, I really hated this situation at that point. But things worked out, I suppose. But I was very frustrated that day. I got over it, and I was going to compete in a regional qualifier the next day. But when I got to the event, it was just kind of discouraging that I didn't get to compete with everyone. I really was. I mean, Glick wasn't able to either because he. What happened? Oh yeah, because he ended up losing as well. But he got closer than I did because he got to the finals in the last LCQ he competed in the last flight. He got to the finals, but he lost to a Tengu Synchro deck because they drew the nuts. He was running Blackwings, by the way. It was a good build, though. It was kind of a meh deck, as he put it, but I still think, he could have done well with it because it was definitely an ideal Blackwing deck, even though some of the choices, I think, were a little odd, some of his tech choices. One might consider bad or unorthodox, but I thought it was good. So, I mean, but ultimately, both of us just kind of sat back. Mark, as we predicted, he won in his very first LCQ. And the very next day, I was just watching as a lot of my friends just competed. Most of my friends scrubbed pretty early. Some of them made it like to round 5 or 6 before dropping, or a little later. Only, I think it was 3 or 4 of my friends ended up making it to day 2, but only one of them ended up making it to top 64. A guy by the name of Gaitan. Just a guy I've met from numerous events and locals. Good player for sure. He was running Tour Guide Tengu Synchro, and I don't know what he lost to. I didn't get a chance to ask him, but when I saw the mat he won, the Trishula mat, I was like, oof, beautiful mat right there. But earlier in the day, I did decide to compete in a regional qualifier, and that ended up going surprisingly well because I won, to my shock. You guys will see the mat when I do a deck profile of the deck I ran, but wow, I was just incredibly lucky that day for 3 reasons. Number 1, my build was good and I drew well most of my games. Like, not the nuts, but it's like I had a decent hand that I could work with pretty much almost every game, which I guess kind of had to do with I just felt the deck was consistent overall. That's what I thought. Even though it had more of a reliance on milling compared to other builds of Tengu Synchro. Number 2 was the fact that was my matchups, because I ended up facing all Tengu decks except for one. In the semis, in top 4, I ended up facing against Agents. And it was a close game, but I ended up pulling it out in the end because, I was just able to recycle monsters. I drew good cards, pretty much. And I was able to force him to use up all of his. And also because, it was partially because I made the right play of playing True Nade immediately, so I could prevent him from going into Trishula. It worked for the most part, but there were two Gravekeeper decks in that flight, both of which I could have easily ended up facing, one of which I thought I was going to face in the finals, but that didn't happen because he was beaten in the semis, and I was like, but the third most important reason was definitely my opponent. I basically almost looked through my deck. I looked at the very bottom because I was like, basically I was going Debris Dragon into Raikou. I was going to go into Iron Chain and then go Pot of Avarice. I didn't even need to do it to win, but I was going to do it anyway because just in case he had it out. And sadly, like, he was nice and said, like, he wasn't gonna call me on it, but I could have easily gotten called on that, gotten a game loss. So I was really fortunate. But stuff like that just happens. I think things like that happen for a reason in a way. I'm glad the guy was not a complete douchebag, and it really makes I told the guy how appreciative I was of that, and he said he didn't think it, and he told me he didn't want to win under those circumstances. So I was really grateful for that. But that was pretty much it. I mean, I had a great time after that. My mood was just so uplifted because I was happy that I was happy that I already had my invite for next year. I got the mat, a nice mat. Regional binder was all right. And I got a lot of stuff done. I'm not sure how much time I'm at with this video, but the only thing that bothered me about the event was something that happened to my friend Mark. His name is Mark London. He had a feature match round 9, playing Psychics. You can find it on the website. I may leave a link for it, but I was just so pissed off by what happened to him in his round 11 match, because round 11, what happened? Round 11, he was playing this kid who was playing Gravekeepers, and from what I heard afterwards, the kid had topped numerous events, so he was there for a reason. Fair enough, but after the kid won game 1, I mean, Gravekeepers was just a bad matchup for Psychics, so it made sense that he lost, and he was siding in. After he did his siding in, he was shuffling his cards in a way that looked kind of suspicious. I didn't think so, but to some it might have. To this kid it did. Or he was just, I don't know. But he was kind of just trying to keep it balanced so he wouldn't lose track of his cards. I can't really reenact it, but yeah, that's what he was doing. The kid tried to get a game loss because he claimed Mark was looking at his cards and was like cheating or something, or stacking. Now, this set off a lot of red lights in my head for 3 reasons, or for 2 to 3 reasons. One, that the match hadn't even started, so how he could actually think he was cheating that way, I don't understand. He could have easily just shuffled the deck up. 2, he had a perfectly legitimate reason for why he was shuffling it that way. 3, how are you supposed to prove he's actually looking at his cards like that? I mean, I was just so annoyed by that. Like, I was one of the only guys there watching it, and I could feel the anger that Mark was feeling inside, because I wanted to smack this kid. This kid was such an annoying jerk. Oh, wow. Like, it just really aggravates me at times when I see people like that. And, the match was, and on top of that, the kid just seemed like such a scrub because he sided in Starlight Road against him. I didn't understand that at all, because of the fact that why would he side in Starlight Road against a deck like Psychics, which isn't known for using a lot of effects that Starlight Road would work against? To me, it made no sense. So, and he won because he ended up using Starlight Road, but it was still ridiculous to me. How could he have known that Starlight Road would have actually been useful? The unfortunate truth is, Mark overpredicted, or he just didn't expect the Starlight Road. Otherwise, he would have won that game. It really annoyed me because, he just should have won that. It was really absurd. If that had been any other trap card, like, other than Warning or Judgment, he would have been fine, but stupid, really stupid. But, aside from that, it was an amazing time. I do have a bunch of shout-outs. I just want to see. Okay. Shout-outs I want to give quickly. Shout-out to Spoofy29 for the chat we had there. I'll definitely get back to you, and maybe we'll set up some kind of video swap. Or like in 36, really amazing guy. I was so happy to meet him at the event. We had a good time. He ended up competing in the video game championships with his Relinquish deck. Sadly, he ended up coming in 5th, but there's a whole lot of bullshit that he'll probably discuss in his video about why there was 5 people there instead of 4, but I'll let him discuss that because he knows this whole situation better than I do. Shout out to GHopper85, even though I didn't get to spend much time with him. You know, really cool dude. I'm glad he at least kind of knew who I was when I ran into him at the LCQs. Shout out to Dragon Duelist Girl, who I only kind of met because I made only a few videos, one of which was a video of her and Warlike and 36 dueling. I will post that. Shout out to Jay Wakid. Shout out to, I'm thinking, who else do I want to give a shout out to? Oh yeah, Zetrox7, who I was able to meet with him at the event, and I won his contest, so I got, and I won a prize. I'm not going to be too specific, just to be on the safe side, because I don't want to like affect any like trading or whatever, but on how we value stuff. But yeah, I ended up winning $50 in cards. It was great. I was really happy to get that stuff. If there's anyone I missed, please let me know, and I'll leave it in the comments or the description. But yeah, I had an amazing time, so I'm gonna end this and post and just show you guys a deck profile of what I ran. So wait for that.